In New Zealand today, it's both, because it is a sacred institution with a long biblical heritage going right back to creation, but it has become a secular institution in which the state has an interest. And so we have a very confused and difficult situation because those two have been almost mixed up, because we have the position where marriages solemnised in church are recognised by the state. So we have one name for two quite different things, and the two aren't always kept separate.
What is the biblical basis for marriage?
Well, if I start in the New Testament, both Paul and Jesus consistently go back to Genesis 2 when they're talking about marriage. It's by far and away the biblical text which is the most often referred to. And in Genesis 2 you've got the account of God creating humankind, recognising that it's not good for human beings to operate alone, and creating a partnership of a pair who are alike but different. And so Adam says, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. God talks about needing to create a partner like him.
How different is marriage in the legal sense from a loving, committed de facto relationship?
I think the key difference is the degree of commitment which is implied. Because marriage in anything like the Christian sense has to be something which is intended to be lifelong. Of course there are all sorts of factors that intervene, but the clear intention is that it's a lifelong commitment. Whereas the relationships which the state is interested in is a question of, is this relationship on now or not? And those relationships can be broken.
In our modern society, some people, perhaps particularly people that aren't from a Christian point of view, see marriage as, well, just a piece of paper. The legal aspect of it is just a piece of paper. But actually at a Christian level, we're looking at a spiritual relationship or even a covenant relationship.
Yeah, and I guess if you get married in a registry office, it pretty much is just a piece of paper for some people. Though for many people it's still much more than that. It's quite striking the number of people who want marriage rather than civil union, precisely because marriage implies a longer, stronger, more permanent relationship.
Do you feel that there is an aspect where the church has something to say about what marriage is or what marriage isn't?
Oh yes, because marriage is one of the key human models of what God is like. Running through Scripture, that marriage is used as a picture to describe the nature of God and God's relationship with us, alongside parenthood as another key picture. And because of that, when we're talking among ourselves as Christians, it's important we don't forget the spiritual aspect of marriage.
Do you feel marriage as a social unit has value to society more than just its value as a form of relationship?
I think all the evidence is that in terms of both the health of the couple and also in terms of the outcomes for the children, a firm, stable relationship like marriage is much better. It's therefore better for society as a whole, because we pay out less in healthcare, and children who grow up healthy and happy and sensible are desirable in society. So just in purely secular terms, it's a good thing.
With marriage seemingly in decline, and statistically it certainly is, the reverse of that, are we reaping what we sow here, the potential cost or downside of the devaluing or the reduction in marriages in New Zealand?
Yeah, I think so. It's a difficult one, but we have made divorce relatively easy. As a result, marriages are seen as being less permanent, and the result of that is all kinds of social disruption. Now, you wouldn't want to go back to the days when people stayed together only for the children. But on the other hand, there is clear value in people entering into the relationship with the intention that it's permanent. marriage is so important to the health, happiness of people and to the good functioning of society that it would make sense for us to preach on it a bit and give people teaching in home groups and the like. There are loads of people who have no religious faith who want to be married. And while that's the case, then the state has an obligation to provide opportunities, more or less. So I don't think we can uncouple the two, but we just have to recognise that we are dealing with two different animals and calling them both by the same name.
In terms of the example that Christians who are married show to society, I mean, this is perhaps an area where we can show some benefit, that as a Christian couple who are married, that we have something of value to contribute because of the quality and happiness and longevity of our marriage. Unfortunately, though, that's not always the case, and the statistics between Christian and non-Christian marriages, whilst they are different, aren't significantly different.
There certainly should be. Whether there is or not, I'd be less sure. But there should be a difference. Christians should be aware of the fact that this is a covenant between two people made in the sight of God. It's a solemn vow that's being made. It's intended to be a permanent and lasting relationship. Christians should be more aware of all that stuff. And we should be encouraging each other not to forget it.
In terms of the way in which we've seen marriage change within a few generations in New Zealand society, and some people are rightly concerned about the way things are trending, are you optimistic about the future of the institution of marriage in New Zealand society?
I guess long term, yes, because marriage is ordained by God, and what God builds into human beings isn't going to be easily broken. It gets broken, but it's part of our nature. People want that kind of relationship, and I think that's why you do see so many people seeking marriage, even if they have no religious faith, rather than a civil union, which in legal terms is the same thing. They want something more.